And I'm not giving up, I'm not giving up, no, not me. Even if nobody else believes, I'm not going down that easily. So don't give up on me.
Hey everyone, are you rad for Christ? Are you fired up for Jesus? Welcome back to Radical Christianity, the show that highlights God in action. I'm your host, Drew, and I'm grateful that you joined us today. Okay, folks, get ready for this. It's wilder than a panda juggling dumplings. Today, we're diving into the extremely absurd story of the Chinese Communist Party rewriting the Bible. Yep, you heard that right. As crazy as it sounds, it's indeed factual. As part of a push to synthesize religion, the Chinese Communist Party has embarked on a 10-year project to rewrite the Bible and other religious texts, as part of Xi Jinping's quest to make the faithful serve the party rather than God. And that's no joke. Now, imagine the leader of China inking away with a red pen on the good book, right? It's like a collision of Confucius and Corinthians, a blend of Mao and Matthew. But wait, it gets even more dumb. According to the latest reports from Fox News and Persecution.org, the Chinese Communist Party is calling their Bible makeover the Chinese New Version, which, if you ask me, sounds more like a sequel to a kung fu movie than a religious text. But here's the kicker. These aren't just rumors floating around like dumplings in a hot pot. They're rewriting actual portions of the Bible to fit their socialist narrative. Yeah. As an example, I'm sure you're all familiar with this story from the Gospel of John, where Jesus famously confronts the accusers of a woman caught committing adultery. Jesus said, "Let the one among you who is without sin cast the first stone." When her accusers leave, Jesus says to the woman, "Has no one condemned you? Neither do I. Go and sin no more." This is a very beautiful story of God's forgiveness and mercy. Unless you're a CCP official, then it's a story of a dissident challenging the authority of the state. A possible sneak preview of what a Bible with socialist characteristics might look like appeared in a Chinese university textbook in 2020. The rewritten story from the Gospel of John ends not with mercy, but with Jesus himself stoning the adulterous woman to death. Also, across Henan province, local CCP officials forced Protestant churches to replace the Ten Commandments with the Xi Jinping quotes. "Thou shalt not have other gods before me" became dictates like, "resolutely guard against the infiltration of Western ideology." But wait, there's more. According to the latest stats, and you know how I love my numbers, China's estimated to have more Christians, 100 million, than members of the Chinese Communist Party, 86.7 million. Now that's a twist worthy of a soap opera plot. With those numbers, it's clear that holding onto power is the key motivator. It's like a divine game of who's got the bigger flock. I can almost hear the dramatic organ music playing as Christians are forced into a party-led religious meeting where the worship team is made to exchange red scarves for their choir robes, and everyone raises their hymnals to sing March of the Volunteers. What other absurdities might we find in this abomination? Picture this. You're sitting in a pew, flipping through the Chinese New Version of the Bible, and you discover that the story of Adam and Eve comes with a government-issued two-child policy. What? Where is be fruitful and multiply? I imagine it's nowhere to be found. Or perhaps, when Jesus fed the 5,000, the leftover baskets are removed from the text, and the Chinese rewrite added Jesus saying, "Food waste is strictly prohibited." And remember the famous golden rule, treat others as you would like to be treated? Well, China's version could probably just be the gung-ho rule. Work as a team and be grateful to work. But let's not forget, friends, that while this tale might be funnier than a panda doing stand-up, it's important to remember that these reports aren't a laughing matter for those facing religious persecution. The sobering reality is that many Christians in China are enduring harsh penalties and even death for following Jesus Christ. This rewrite of the Bible is 100% about control and social manipulation. So even though the Chinese Communist Party rewriting the Bible might be a punchline waiting to happen, it's essential to keep the laughter tempered with a touch of awareness. For now, let's just stick to our good old unedited Bibles, and remember, no amount of rewriting can erase the faith that unites the kingdom of God. So, enough of that. We have a great show lined up for you today, so let's get the ball rolling, shall we? Tell me, are you rad for Christ? Are you fired up for Jesus? All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special treat here today. Our guest is got a lot to say. He's doing a lot. His wife does a lot. He has an amazing story to tell. I want to have a big, huge, warm welcome for Loto. Loto. It is great. For those of people who are wondering why I didn't pronounce your last name, would you please tell them what it is?
It's Le'ala'i Matafao.
Yeah, so you guys know why. I didn't even try.
Yeah, if you can say that, then you have a Samoan card. Yeah. Only thing bigger than us is our last names, they say. So, yeah.
That's great. So, welcome to Radical Christianity.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
I'm excited to talk with you and hear about how God's using you. But first, what we usually do is we do the testimony, and then we lead that into how God's using your ministry.
Awesome.
So, if you would share with us your testimony.
So, some of you that are watching, you probably see the shirt and you recognize that they're patterns, tribal patterns. Like I mentioned earlier, I am Samoan. I was born in Samoa, back in the islands. It's on the other side of Hawaii, beautiful South Pacific. Mom and Dad left the islands for the only reason you ever leave the islands, and that's to offer their kids a better life. They wanted us to have a better education. And so we left the islands, came to Hawaii, stayed there for a little bit, and then landed here in Fresno. Unfortunately, Drew, like a lot of young men back in the 90s here in Cali, I chose a different kind of route than my parents had for me. And I turned a parent's dream into a living nightmare. I got caught up in the streets, ended up doing a lot of things I actually grew up hating doing, or I hated everything about gangbanging and drugs. Why? Because I already knew where it led. I had enough family and friends that were involved with that nobody had to sit me down and lecture me about the dangers of this lifestyle. The problem is, regardless of how I felt about those things, I kept surrounding myself with them. I started off a nerd, actually, still a nerd. I'm naturally a student. I love being a student. I love learning. Anything that needs to be learned, I want to learn it. So I had good grades all throughout elementary. Didn't really get into a lot of trouble until I hit 7th and 8th grade. I was introduced to some things, and I started figuring out, why am I in this classroom doing all this hard work while everybody else gets to just do whatever they want, out there, and I also had, like I said, I surrounded myself with these things. So I also had friends that did a lot of things that I wasn't doing. And I figured if I'm going to be their friend and their go-to guy, I got to do what they're doing so I can be with them. I prided myself on being anybody's best friend. I'm going to be your best protector. I'm going to be, the one that you can always count on. In order for me to be there, I had to do what they're doing. So, long story short, I started gangbanging and started doing drugs and all that. I remember something that a lady told me, though. She said, Loto, you better be careful because if you keep sleeping with dogs, you're finna wake up with fleas. And I got so mad. I was instantly offended. We called her Nana. Everybody in Fresno, you know what a Nana is. I don't care what hood you're from. If you're black, white, brown, striped, whatever, everybody has a Nana. And the Nana is the lady that watches over all the kids in the neighborhood, right? She says, you better be careful. I got so mad at her.
She's the neighborhood grandma.
Yes, exactly. Right. And I told her, I said, what are you saying about my friends? Like, how dare you say that? And besides, you don't know anything about me because I'm not going to be a gangbanger. I'm not going to be a dope dealer. I'm too smart for that. I'm going to be a lawyer, a doctor, a football player, Again, my head was in the books at that time. Eventually, Andrew, I'm waking up, scratching, itching. Now I'm smoking and even sniffing, drinking and the whole bit because I don't care who you think you are. I'll tell you who you are right now. With all the respect I can muster up. For the viewers, you are who you hang out with. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Tell me who you're walking with and I'll tell you where you'll end up. It's simple math. 1 + 1 is always 2. It'll never change. Look at the people that you're hanging around with. That will tell you what your future is looking like. And I didn't really understand that as a young man. I thought it was good enough that I had my head in the books. I didn't realize the power of influence. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not the guy that pulls a society card. Oh, my environment made me do it. My friends made me. Nobody made me do anything. And then we also hear about, broken kids come from broken homes. Again, my parents loved me. They left everything they knew and everyone they loved to give me a better future. I didn't come from a broken home, but I was dumb enough to make my own dumb decisions, So I get caught up in the streets, start doing my thing. You could click a channel over and over again. Every other channel, you'll hear about gang stories and all that. So I'm not going to get into all that. I remember, though, when I got to the top of the mountain that I thought I wanted to conquer, getting into the top of that ladder, I started to realize some things. Actually, the more I started to realize those things, it was easier for me to just really jump off the ladder and end it all. Because right when I got to the top of it, I looked around and I realized, man, the top of this mountain sure does look a lot like the bottom of the mountain. And on top of this ladder, there's no party because there's no room. There's only room for one person. So I don't know really what in my heart was that I thought was going to be up there. Whatever it was, it sure wasn't. All the fame, all the glory, the power and respect, and the parties and all that. It hit me that all of that was on the way up. Now that I'm on top of this thing and living this life that I thought I wanted, I looked around and saw I was living a lie. I chased the lie the whole time. And it wasn't so much the lie that crushed me. It wasn't so much the lie that made jumping off the ladder, tempting. It was realizing everything I threw away for it. And I remember, man, I threw away my family. I threw away good friends, good relationships. I threw away a great future, a great education. I threw all of that away for what? For nothing? Like you get more money, you get more respect, but really it's just a different degree of what you already have. And the thought that it was not going to get any better was devastating, along with realizing what, everything I had thrown away. I realized, man, I sold my life for nothing. So then I became very cynical. I started looking at other people climbing their ladders, whether it was corporate ladders, whether it was ministry ladders, whether it was college, going to school, family ladders, chasing their dreams. And I laughed at them. I said, man, you don't know what you're going to get when you get to the top of the ladder. You're going to realize that you are throwing your life away for nothing. Like, there's nothing up there. And so this whole world became a lie to me. It was an empty, nothing, a bunch of lies. So then I started waking up mad at God for waking me up, blaming God for everything. I've always had religion in my life, but my religion was not Christianity, Catholicism, or, no, it was parking lotism. I sat in a parking lot every Sunday, brother, and I learned about God, but only enough to be dangerous to myself and everyone else. 3 things real quick I want to go over that I learned. I learned that God is in control. That's why it was God's fault. That's why all of this stuff that's happening to me is his fault. He's the one that's in control. Why does he not change it? I also learned that God loves me. Well, yeah, maybe he loves me, but I don't think he loves me as much as he loves those church kids. I don't think he loves me as much as those kids that, they got it all together. And I learned that God is, that it's fair. I just couldn't understand how God could be fair when he allows me to grow up in a house where I have an awesome dad who busts his back going to work, a legit job, all day. I don't ever really get to see him, except on weekends, but he's doing that to provide a life for me. Yet we still couldn't afford anything new. I couldn't, I had those 5th generation hand-me-down pants. The pants that belong to your brother, belong to the half-brother, belong to the uncle, the mayor, went to the governor, and now you're wearing these holy pants, We wore holy pants before it was a fashion statement, right? It was a necessity, but yet, my friend across the street, man, he gets whatever he wants because his dad stays home all day slanging drugs. What kind of fair God is this? So I was very angry. I grew up confused about God and just didn't really know him, but just knew that he was this God that was the reason for all of my wrongs, all of my misery and all that. And I blamed him for everything. And I remember I used to wake up, God, why do you keep waking me up for? Just let me die, Making a long story shorter, is... I remember I almost got my death wish. But before I get to that, I really want to just tell the truth because I'm not going to sit here and just tell you half of the truth that being out there gangbanging, drugs and all that was just a bunch of gloom and doom. No, it wasn't. Doing drugs was a whole lot of fun. I know we're not supposed to say that, right? But sinning was a whole lot of fun.
We'd be lying if we
We
didn't.
would be, I mean, nobody smokes a joint to get a migraine,
Right.
And so it was a whole lot of fun. I mean, getting drunk, and we all know the stories about drunk talk and getting high as a kite and going through all that. But the thing I used to love watching or doing back in sin, in my life of sin, it wasn't even the drugs. It wasn't even the power that came with what I did. It was actually, ladies, forgive me, but it was watching girls dance. I just loved watching girls dance, and I loved dancing right along with them, and that's what I did at all 16 years, out there, and I remember, just dancing and dancing with sin, dancing with girls, dancing with drugs, dancing with everything under the sun, and all of a sudden, bang. August in 1994, I almost got my death wish when I stood face to face with a sawed-off shotgun. I was blasted in the face, and I woke up blind, Drew. And I woke up blind. I know that might be shocking to a lot of our viewers, but I want you to do something. Don't feel sorry for me. Don't feel sorry for me. Don't have pity on me, because to be honest with you, becoming blind was the beginning of the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. God only let the devil close these eyes on my face so that God can open up the eyes of my heart. And ever since God has opened up the eyes of my heart, God has been using this blind guy to open up the eyes of those who can see the TV screen or your monitor better than me. But you're the one that's still looking, beloved. You're the one that's still searching, brother. You're the one that still can't find it, sis. As I wrap up the testimony, I just want to encourage you real quick, when you're done looking everywhere, when you're done looking at the bottom of a bottle, at the end of a joint, when you're done looking at somebody else's arm or bed, when you're done looking in your wallet or your bank account, you still can't find it. When you're done looking here and there, all around you, look up. Just look up. He's right there, and he's everything that you're looking for. He's everything that you need, and you're going to be surprised at how much he's everything that you desire. Thank you for letting me share that story, Andrew. That was 29 years ago.
Wow.
When I lost my sight, but actually gained vision, brother.
That's a pretty compelling story, man.
Praise God.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure most people can relate to, the fact that that sin is fun.
Yes.
I think most people can relate to that. And a lot of people can relate to, especially in the greater Fresno and Central Valley area, about gang violence and gang banging. It seems like this city is, even though it's in the middle of California, it's mostly an ag-based community. Yeah. We still have a lot of gang violence. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that we're kind of a depressed community, you know what I mean? Where, we want wages to be low, and not, I don't want that. I mean, we don't want that. I don't want that.
Yeah.
But the community, you know what I mean? The people in power.
Gosh, yeah.
You know what I mean? They like to keep, people paid low, people living hard. Our jails have been, over full for a very long time.
Yeah.
And that goes to, I would say, not to get on the high horse or talk politics here, but it's been like that. Fresno's been like that my whole life, and I grew up here, and I'm half a century old, so you know what I mean. So it's a long time that Fresno's been like this. Yeah, and so it's not the people in power now; it's the mindset of power that continues from cycle to cycle.
Yeah, I do have to say though, in the wide scheme of things, I am grateful for Central Valley and Fresno, because we still kind of held on to some of our soul, right?
Oh yeah.
When we look at other places, not to play the comparison game, but really, I mean, that is the reality. We've still been able to hold on to a lot of things that a lot of the big cities have forfeited and have given over. And this is a place where, hey, with all its drama, it is still a great place to raise your kids.
Oh yeah.
It is still a really great, for education, all of these different things, But no, you're absolutely right. A lot of things that's going on, man. It's a really good way to maintain your position, while holding everybody else down and all that. But one thing I really thank God for is that, man, with Christ, with God, all things are possible. So regardless of systems, right? Regardless of all the systematic things that's going on, man, I just thank God. I don't live according to the government of this world, but man, I live in the government of the kingdom of God, and because of that, I've truly, truly, truly been blessed, Drew. I'm living a life I have no business living. Kids like me should not be sitting at this couch talking to you right now. I wasn't supposed to make it past 22. So every day, pretty much after 22 is a blessing, for me, and so I truly thank God for His grace. I talked about the things I learned sitting on that parking lot, right? Those three things that God is in control. What I found out is God really is in control. I have fragments right here from the shotgun shell that still is right next to my artery. That fragment moves 1 millimeter the wrong way, I won't be sitting here. I still have about 30, 40 fragments in my body. A lot of things could have went wrong, but because God was in control, the same God that told the ocean, you stop right there, at the shore,
right?
And then about God, loving me. The reason why I serve God today is not because I was shot in the face. There's a lot of people that got shot in the face, man. They're the furthest things from God, The reason why I love God so much is because He first loved me. I woke up that morning. Remember, I used to wake up blaming God and mad at God for waking me up. But when I woke up, it hit me. This same God that I blamed everything on could have looked down at me and said, okay, Loto, you think I'm so mean? Let me show you how really mean I could be. And He could have sent me straight to hell. But instead, He sent grace and mercy to pluck me out of the jaws of hell. And then finally, when people say that God is fair, I said, God is not fair. I explained why I thought that, and that was only one example about growing up the way I did. You know what I found out after I got shot? I was right. God is not fair. And thank God He's not fair. Because I know what I deserve.
Right.
I know what I deserve. I should have been dead and gone. But, man, I am so blessed today, brother. A couple of weeks ago, man, I celebrated 25 years with my beautiful wife, Maria.
Ah, that's awesome.
Yeah, right? We have 5 amazing kids. I think we got heaven's loudest 5, but now we call them the fabulous 5, And man, like 25 plus years of ministry, it's like, again, now if I lived according to the systems of this world, there's no way I could testify about all this goodness. But because of God's grace, man, I get to walk in His abundance. Sorry, man, I didn't mean to get all preachy or anything like that.
No, that's what this show's for, man.
Praise God.
We're
getting pretty radical here, brother. You got to calm down, Drew. You got to calm down.
I don't get calmed down, man. This is my show. I get to be radical.
Praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus.
We occasionally get to shake it up. Sometimes, sometimes it's kind of tame around here. But the truth of the matter is, the point I was going to make about the depressed community, is that's balanced out because the Central Valley is the highest concentration of churches.
Wow.
And faith-based people.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So there's a balance.
Yes.
And God's working here,
Thank you, Lord.
And God has major plans for the Central Valley.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to us to be used by God.
Yes.
To make the difference around here.
Man,
because it's going to be a depressed community.
Yeah.
Right. It's the devil's world.
Yes, that's the way of the world. Yes, sir.
Right. And
wow,
and since the God-friendly Christian population who are God-fearing, God-first people will always be outnumbered by everybody else. Yeah. Politics will always be driven by the devil.
Yeah. And that sounds daunting at first glance, right?
Right.
It sounds daunting, but thank you for saying that, because that also is very encouraging, because that has been the truth for history, all of history. And it's awesome because even though we are outnumbered, we're still here.
Oh, yeah.
We're still here, not to steal another podcast name, but my boy, I got a shout out my boy Jose. But we're still here, all the drama. What is it? Pastor just preached about this this weekend, 2 Corinthians 4, verse 8, that we are pressed, on every side. We're persecuted but not abandoned, struck down but not destroyed. And that's so awesome for you to point that out, man. Because Fresno, let's be honest, we're always the bad end of the joke.
Oh, we are. Every Hollywood movie that mentions Fresno, it's always a negative.
Yes.
Very rarely is a mention of Fresno positive.
Yeah.
You know what the one positive mention of Fresno I can pull out of my hat?
Okay.
You ever watch Three's Company, that show?
Yes.
Can you remember Chrissy's? Not Chrissy. Was it Chrissy's dad? The one. It was one of the blonde roommates' dads. It was Cindy, the one that was Chrissy's cousin.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, the father was a preacher in Fresno.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I think it was either Cindy or Chrissy's father. I didn't watch the show recently.
Show.
Yeah, in the show.
Wow.
The character's father was a preacher in Fresno.
Now we know why Hollywood is so intimidated by us. Because they know we are a God-fearing place, And this is so true because I talk about this a lot when we talk about addressing the whole gang issue. Man, I thank God because with all of our gang problems and all that, again, God has set up boundaries, where we haven't been allowed to really go wild with the gangbanging thing. Yes, it's very tragic, but when you look at, big city gangs, we're nowhere near, the numbers of shootings, of murder and all that. Look, again, violence is violence. Death is death. But again, I do consider this the Bible Belt of California.
It is. Yeah, it really is. We are, like I said, it's balance.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's one thing that you can tell is in God's design.
Yeah.
Everything on earth has balance.
Amen.
Right?
Yes.
And it's a sad truth, but it's also a beautiful truth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for Christians, it tends to be more of a challenge because the more that we work for God and Jesus, the more the world comes after us.
Oh my
you know
gosh.
What I mean?
Yeah.
So there's always those sad balances.
Goes hand in hand.
Yeah. So, how is God using you today?
So today, I get to do a lot of cool things. What I really love about it is I get to do a lot of those things with my wife. We are actually chaplains at Fresno County Juvenile Hall. So we literally get to, have a hand in ministering, to kids who, are the outcasts,
Yeah. I grew up with many kids that ended up in juvenile hall.
So, yeah. And let's be honest. I mean, we have to admit, some of them, they earned that, you know?
Well, let's be honest. I would have been one of them if my mother wasn't an attorney.
Oh, come on. Wow. Yeah. Wow. That's a hard truth, but the truth. Yeah. But man, there's so many kids in there that we get to minister to. All of them, actually. Not just some of them, but all of them. And we're seeing God move in such an awesome way in juvenile hall. There's not enough time on this show for me to just tell of all the amazing things we've experienced. That we've been there for about 12 years now. And we're seeing this year we had 13 kids graduate from high school.
Okay.
These are kids who we sat when they came in and they hated school. They were already dropouts. They had already dropped out. Their minds were already made up that school was not for them. And we got to see them, I believe it was June or July, standing there in a gap and gown. And then one of those kids just started his nursing program.
Nice.
By the time he gets out, he's going to be a nurse. Fresno County Juvenile has a welding trade program there.
Yeah.
So majority of those kids are walking out of there with a welding certification. Some of them has already gone straight to work. So so those are some of the things that we get to do. I'm an evangelist. I'm out of Cornerstone Church. Thank God for my pastor, Pastor Franklin, and the whole family and the whole church family. I thank God for Pastor because I don't know if there's any other pastor in town that would take the risk that he has. We've been honored and blessed to lead missions trips. Lead a whole team on short-term mission trips around the world. I don't know any pastor that would let a blind guy lead his people, around the world, on the mission team, So I'll always be grateful for my pastors, man. Everything that we learn about ministry, God used them to teach us, So yeah, we've gotten to do short-term missions trip. I do a lot of community outreaches, a lot of school assemblies, reaching out to schools and all. That one's always a lot of fun. I love talking to the faculties or administrations there. And they're always nervous, because when they find out I'm a minister, well, we don't like, the whole ministry thing. And I know what they're getting to, proselytizing and all that. And I tell them, oh, don't worry about it. I know how to preach an Uncle Sam gospel, I believe if you have to, if you absolutely think you have to, use Jesus' name 12 times and have a 12-point sermon to preach the gospel, you're probably not doing it right.
That's probably accurate.
Yeah, and for example, look at our community outreaches. We have an amazing feeding ministry at the church called Feeding Fresno. Well, we feed millions of people a year, right? And the thing is, we're always talking about, oh man, God used us to reach these people. No, He didn't. He used a bag of groceries to reach, to reach his people. He used a hot dog.
Hot dog.
But it's so awesome that we get to be in the middle of that. So we get to do, I get to do a lot of things. I had a podcast, Overflow EXT. I'm getting ready to actually launch a whole nother one called The Overcomers, or The Life of the Overcomer, which is really neat, man, because that's my name, LOTO. So it's Life of the Overcomers. And so I'm going to get to do what you do, Drew, interview some cool people and talk about how they overcame things, I really believe that I was left on this earth for a reason and for a purpose. And I believe that purpose was to equip people to overcome life's worst challenges, and to teach people how to turn tragedies into strategies, so that's it in a quick nutshell. You let me talk, brother. I will go on forever because there's so much ministry going on, and I'm glad I get to be a part of it.
Well, don't worry. There will be a opportunity for you to come back because I think that you need to be a regular on Radical Christianity, man.
Be honored, brother.
There's a lot that you're going to have to share and a lot that you're going to have to say. So, just between the juvenile hall, the background in the the gangs, what I mean? There's way too many things. And we're going to be doing some format changes, which I'm not announcing yet, to the show, which will give you great opportunity to engage, which, it's all about reaching people. You know what I mean? And I say that this show is designed to teach people that Jesus is not something to be afraid of. This show is designed to, educate that, because most people are distant from any kind of understanding of what church is or what comes out of church.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And church is just, it's not just a building. We're the church.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
So people have to understand that not only is Jesus there for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, so the complete lost, we want to make sure we try and bring them home. But there's also those in the family. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
The ones that are really needing some brotherhood and some friendship and some faith and some understanding and some love.
Yeah.
And we want to be there for them too. So.
No, this is, man, and thank you for saying that also, because I was just talking to a brother last night where we had a Bible study last night, and Galatians 6:10, tells us about how to be a blessing to others, but to start with those in the house, to start with the saints. Ephesians 6, and in 19:20 talks about all prayers that be made for the saints. And I think sometimes we can become so outreach minded we neglect our own folks. There needs to be outreach, but there also needs to be inreach. I think if we just tightened up things just for the people in house, we wouldn't have any room for everybody else, and that's a great problem. Still a problem, but a great problem.
It's when God will solve. If the problem exists, God will make a way.
Yes, and so here's the thing. I want to say this real quick. As far as I love the name of the show, by the way.
Thank you.
Radical Christianity. I'm all about being radical. Here's a radical thought: holiness. Holiness. Now I know that we've allowed the devil to turn that into a bad word for some people. And a byword,
It's a scary word for a lot of people.
It is, but here's the thing: it's also an attractive word. You put a guy, you put a group of guys in a room, and you put two different girls there, or let's just say, let's put women. You put women in there and put two different guys in there. One sleeps around with everybody. One keeps themselves pure and holy. The ones to sleep around wants that type of thing. But the one that's really looking for something good is going to go after the one that keeps themselves pure and holy. This is what I'm saying. I think we're so driven to be attractive to people that we don't pay attention to the attraction that we're using and that we're really coming from. And so we do a lot of things to be relevant. I'll be very honest with you. I have a really big pet peeve. Everybody that knows me knows I get on this, soapbox about being relevant, because I think sometimes we sacrifice reverence for relevance. But I also think that we don't need to do that, that we can do both. A lot of times we'll do things, that compromises, the gospel, and compromises, the what God expects of us, just so we can get, this group and that. Well, that's easy though. Yeah. All we have to do is just strip butt naked, and everybody will love us, But no, we have to learn how to keep. I don't look that great naked. But if we learn how to keep a secret, right? If we learn how to walk in holiness, because when they come to church, they're not coming to church to look for candy. They're coming to church to look for real food, for meat. And when they come in and all we're doing is presenting candy on that stage, well, they're looking at us and say, why would I want that? I just left that. I came over here for something different. Why would I want a knockoff when I can go to the world who's the experts at candies? I want some real bread, And so I really believe that the more we get committed to really obeying the word of God, Jesus said in the Great Commission, the last part of it, he said, go, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore into the world, make disciples of all the nations, baptize in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. That last part, teaching them how to observe everything I commanded you. I think that's the most neglected part. And I think because of that, we find ourselves in the world that we find ourselves in. Drew, I'll say this finally. The church is not broken because lost people do lost things. Mm-hmm. The church is not broken because sinners sin. Because, newsflash, sinners sin. Yeah. The world is broken because the church is not being the church. The world is broken because we haven't held up our part of the table or our part of the deal with God. And that's holiness. I know that's a very scary word. And that's a very big one. And that's some people can look at that as a stop sign. But
I agree with you. I wrestle with that kind of stuff like everybody else does.
Yes, same here.
But the truth of the matter is, it's not about being self-righteous. It's about being righteous.
Yes. With His righteousness.
With His righteousness.
Yeah.
Because you call it holy. Holy is the result of pursuing righteousness.
Yeah.
So.
No, and that's so true. Again, man, back in Galatians 5, man, Paul wrote to the Galatians. He said, "You have been set free for the sake of being set free. So why are you going back to these works? Why are you telling people to go do this, and that?" I love what Pastor says, man. The gospel is not a bunch of do's and don'ts. The gospel is we know this. It sounds almost cliche, Christianese. It's relationship.
Yeah.
It's relational. But that is really the truth of the matter. I don't do good works so I can please God. I do works because, man, I can't help but do works whenever I think about what God has done for me. I'm not saved because I do good works. I do good works because I'm saved.
I agree with that. The way I tell people, for those who are curious, what I think, which is nobody, just so you know. If you guys are curious what I think, I think that it's not about pursuing being perfect.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's not about...
So good.
Here's the thing. Jesus forgave us of our sin.
Already.
We're all going to be sinful. Our past sins, our future sins, our current sins, they're forgiven. They're off the books.
Yeah.
All right? The sin gets in the way between us having a relationship with the Father and the Spirit. So obviously, the more that you spend time in the Word, the more that you spend time in fellowship, the more that you spend time surrounding yourself with the kind of people that are motivated by doing the right thing for Jesus, the closer you get to Jesus.
Yes.
The closer you get to Jesus, the more He is going to change you and remove the desire for sin out of your life.
So good, yes.
If you think about it the other way around, you're doing yourself a grave injustice.
No.
Do not worry about the sin in your life. Worry about getting closer to Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That was
my soapbox.
That is so good because, again, the greatest way to get people to break addictions and just the things that they have a hard time getting over, get them to get closer to Jesus. Get them. It's just like a relationship, right? When there's a girl, when we're younger, there's a girl, the object of your
It's
desire
funny how
and all
girls
that.
can make big changes in you guys' lives.
Exactly. You find out that she doesn't like such and such. Guess what you're going to stop doing?
Yeah.
You find out that she likes such and such. Guess what you're going to start doing?
Yeah.
So again, that's why you nailed it right on the head. The best way to get one to overcome these things, just get them closer to Jesus. Because the more they fall in love with Jesus, the more they'll get that desire. You know what? This is not good. I don't want to displease God anymore. So beautiful way of illustrating, brother. A great point.
Yeah. Hey, we're totally out of time, but Loto, man, I am so great. I'm glad I got to meet you and got to know you, and I'm definitely going to want you back on the show a lot. And
I'm gonna hold you to that, brother.
You don't have to hold me to it. I'm probably going to call you more than you're willing to come on the show. No, but anyway, so definitely, I'm putting my hand out, shaking your hand.
Yes, Drew.
You
Bless
definitely
you, brother.
are rad for Christ. You're
Praise
definitely
God.
fired up for
Bless
Jesus,
the Lord.
and that's what we love to see on this show. God bless you, man.
Bless you, brother.
Housekeeping. It's housekeeping time. Yes, those of you who watch the show know exactly what housekeeping time is. This is the time that Drew sits and looks awkward because he's asking you guys to reach into your pockets and partner with the Lord God on getting the message of the gospel out. Yes, it's actually a privilege. It's actually a privilege to help God in these kinds of ways. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking, you know what, these guys are really working it here, and I'd like to help, there are so many things that we would like to do with this show to make it bigger and better and more impressive and funnier and more entertaining, and there's a lot. And we would be able to do more of that if we had a bigger budget, which would be awesome. But in the meantime, we're happy to do what we can with what the Lord provides us. And with that said, if you are able to part with $5, $10, $15, $20, $100, whatever it is that you feel like you can do, just go to rad4christ.com and click the donate link. And then that'll take you to the Mr. E Christian Media donation page, and you can drop down the drop-down list of projects and pick Radical Christianity to that, and every penny that you give will be donated directly to the show. This show specifically. Now, if you are looking at some of the other projects and you'd like to donate to those as well, you can donate to the general or to any of those specific projects that you'd like. But I just want you to know that you don't have to donate money. We don't expect you to. We give you the opportunity so that you can be blessed, we can be blessed, and that would be a great thing, right? So the donations are there, but if you can't donate, you can also help the show by sharing it with a friend on your social media, telling people about it, and then, of course, tune in and write us and let us know what you think, all right? Anyway, that's the housekeeping this week, and on with the show. Do you guys remember my friend Todd Harris from Total Life Change? He was on the second episode of Radical Christianity. Well, we're going to check out his office up close and in person. It's going to be great.
Drew, how are you? Good to see you.
Todd.
How you been?
I'm doing all right. How you doing?
So glad you came by the office today.
Yeah.
See what God's doing in this part of the city here.
Well, you were a guest on the show, and we definitely need to see what Total Life Change and is all about here. So let's get the tour started.
Well, let's start with the mission statement.
Okay.
What do you think? So our mission statement is breaking the stigma of addiction through medical principles and spirituality to empower those in crisis.
Okay.
So when we say, medical principles, we're JACO certified by the state. It's a high-level gold standard, the medical model that helps people understand some of the distorted thinking they get into. And here's what we do know. Spirituality comes when you can get rid of some of the distorted thinking and understand who the true and wise God really is. And we all know who that is, right? But some people get caught up in life and the world, and it takes them to places they don't want to go and keeps them longer than they want to stay. And how do you get out of it? God help me. Well, hopefully this is a place where you can find the help. And if you can't find the help in our center, we'll navigate you to the right center. It's kind of like the quote on the board today. Sobriety is not a one-time decision. we have to make it every day because it's worth it. You know, it's a one day at a time decision. And there's choices you make that'll make you your best self. And we want to help you be your best self. So with that, this is my office right here. And I'm a licensed ordained pastor, been that way for about 20 years. And this came out of a brainstorm that God gave me, that he wanted to give recovery of sight to the blind, the burdened, the lame, and the broken. And that's what we want to do. We want to help people be their best selves. This is our clinical room. This is where we do a lot of one-on-ones with folks that want to go deeper in their root issues. And that's part of the process, along with group. This is a little kitchen area that we have. This here is our administration room. We like the Alpha and the Omega, right? First and the last. And we know that without administration, we can't make this thing happen. This is where the real work happens. This is our group room. This is where we have group therapy, the IOP, the intensive outpatient piece, and our whole motive of operation operates out of love, safety, and connection. Because here's what I do know, that people in life, loved ones especially, help my loved ones addicted. What do I do? Because there's no doubt that you love your loved ones. It's just you don't feel safe or connected. So if we can get them into treatment, they start understanding what safety and connection is. And then we also have a big piece for family, another model that is not in the intensive place where the family comes, even though we do family group. But we have another 8-lesson, 1-month model that helps family understand the family crisis and build love, safety, and connection, and build boundaries and how to help them be their best selves. So when we can get the individual in treatment and the family understanding the dynamics, then we can build love, safety, and connection. So that's the concept, and we wrap that around in pastoral care if the client likes that. If not, we're always open to anybody who has another spiritual belief. We just want to help them be their best self. And so this room is our intake room. This is where we do all the initial intake, and we walk people through what the program is going to be about. We have 2 tracks that we run on. And this is always, the IOP program is for the working class. So there's a morning track from 9 to noon, and there's an evening track from 5 to 8. So in the outpatient model, the intensive outpatient model that helps people recover from drug and alcohol addiction, we need to be there for the working class because they need to continue to work. So there's those 2 tracks that we run on, and this is the initial room where we come in and do all the groundwork before they enter the program.
Todd, it is great to have you on Radical Christianity again.
Yeah.
You know, you were like on the 2nd episode. We were just babies, just getting things going.
Right.
And
that was so awesome, though. I mean, the set and what the energy and how the Holy Spirit's moving in this whole movement you have of Radical Christianity, it impresses me because this is how God works, you know. He takes the weak things of the world to confound the wise. And we know that all the strength is in him. We know that.
Yeah.
And that's how this ministry started, right here. I mean, it was out of just the plight of sometimes you're in between jobs, sometimes you're just going, Lord, what's next? You've been following him for a long time. Maybe you've been there. I know I've been there, right? Yeah. And it was out of Luke chapter 4 when Jesus had been tempted in the desert those three days, right? And he comes back to the temple and he says, I'm going to read you out of the scroll of Isaiah. I've come to give recovery of sight to the blind, the burdened, the lame, and the broken. And I think that's what Radical Christianity is doing. You're giving recovery of sight to the blind, the burdened, the lame, and the broken. And this ministry does that at a grassroots level, a real level where people find themselves addicted today, depressed, coming through the pandemic, you know. What do I turn? A lot of them turn to alcohol, drugs, just a sense of hopelessness, right? And so we want to give them a sense of hope here. And we really want to give the loved ones, everybody has loved ones where you're going, how do I help this person? What do I do? Well, if you can give them our number at 475-9779 and have them call the office. If we can't help them in our center, we're going to navigate them to the right center. So the video we just did kind of highlighted everything we do here,
Right.
from the mission statement to the intensive outpatient. We also do anger management. We also have a crisis family group for families that are unhealthy helpers, not codependents,
Okay.
just unhealthy helpers, you know. You've been trying to help your loved one get out of the kind of place they've been in, and you find yourself powerless, unmanageable, maybe high anxiety, and what do? Well, you know what? Jesus said this. He said, you know, compassion is good, but all-encompassing unhealthy helping, codependency, is not. And
Yeah.
what we do know is this, is that boundaries come when you can understand who your best self is. Your true identity is in Him.
So an unhealthy helper. Give me. Obviously, the people watching are going to hear that term and they're going to draw their own conclusions.
Right.
So give me some examples of what an unhealthy helper would be in a family environment.
You know, when I look at an unhealthy helper, I'll just give an example from my own example, and that is, I love my kids. I absolutely love them. And I would do almost anything for them. But as they grow up, hey, Dad, can I have $20? Hey, Dad, can I have $20? So you give them $20. And then it gets to the point where they just expect the $20, right? Or, you know, Dad, I'm almost out of gas. Where you at? Let me come and fill your tank up. You know what? At some level, they may need to run out of gas. And I can't be there to help them. It's called the natural consequences of life. And the unhealthy helpers does things what your family members should do for themselves.
Okay.
And the longer we perpetuate us doing for them what they should do for themselves, that's called unhealthy helping.
I got you. So
And saying no is tough. No is a full sentence.
Right.
Right?
So we're talking about enablers then.
Yes. And what happens is, it's really interesting. It's hard to say no for us who love to help people, because we just think we're helping them, but we're not.
Right.
What we're doing is we're making them more important than making us our best selves, and having some boundaries around that.
And we're not giving them the tools they need.
Right. And so there's three areas that I just real quickly speak into, the three areas of boundaries. There's a permeable boundary, there's a rigid boundary, and then there's a semi-permeable boundary. And the permeable boundary is kind of like a line drawn in the sand at the beach. There's a line there, but the wave comes and washes it over, so there's really no boundary at all. A rigid boundary would be, I'm done with you, I don't want to talk to you anymore, so you don't let nobody in, you put these walls up, and that's not what Jesus wants either. But a semi-permeable boundary is one kind of like a sieve, where, you know, it lets smaller articles through and it keeps bigger articles out. For example, I had a person go through my 8-week crisis family model that helped them understand who their best self was. And here's the key. She said, Todd, I think I came up with a good semi-permanent boundary. I said, what is it? She goes, every time I get in my car, and my husband says, can you navigate for me? And then he tells me I don't know where I'm going. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a semi-permanent boundary. When he gets in the car, I'll say, hey, look, I'd be happy to navigate for you. But the minute you tell me where I'm not going, I'm turning it off. You go wherever you want to go. So that was a great idea. She had a semi-permanent boundary.
Right.
Well, she was her best self. And she had a boundary there that if something were to happen, I'm no longer going to be talked to like that.
Right.
So that's kind of how we help people identify their best selves.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's paint a typical kind of. I mean, there's probably no typical. Let's go over some different kinds of clients and situations where somebody may need the services here.
Beautiful. So our premise is that I myself have been in recovery for 36 years, and I went through an outpatient program that literally saved my life. Jesus Christ saved my soul, but this program, I knew of God, I didn't know God. So I'm not here to push Jesus on people. I'm here to help them be their best selves. And in being their best selves, hopefully they come to know God, right?
Right.
So our intensive outpatient program is about a 3-month model where we're licensed by the state. They come in and they are addicted to drugs, alcohol, and we help them understand how to get the treatment they need to walk a lifetime of freedom from being in that plight of being addicted to those two substances.
Okay.
In light of that, there's different ways we go about it. One is that sometimes people need the intensive outpatient. If they don't need the intensive outpatient piece and they think they can handle it by themselves, we'll counsel them for a while and we'll see if that is really what they need, is just counseling, or they're just still in denial. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So a lot of people will come in, oh, I can handle it. Well, we all know that drugs and alcohol are bigger than us. They've taken bigger people down. Yeah, they've taken down presidents, they've taken down homeless, they've taken down white middle class. It doesn't matter, you know. It's an equal opportunist that we have to be mindful that this society that we live in are looking for escapes, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And
well, yeah. That's everybody's trying to escape the pain, right?
And the key is us forget them to understand that, you know what, that's the alcohol and the drugs is just a symptom of the disease, and disease brings dis-ease. That's why it's called a disease, right? And so if we can alleviate some of the dis-ease, then they can get into some rational thinking. Because the distorted thinking is what gets us into unhealthy helping and the addiction. We think that, you know, if we use this, it'll take us out of our momentary pain, which it will, followed by miserable pain once the drug or the alcohol is out of subsided from your system. That's why you want more. That's called addiction. Well, it's the same with the unhealthy helper. You know, oh, I helped them today. Oh, they told me they were going to quit. This is their last time, followed by they did it again. So how do we bring rational thought where you can be your best self?
Yeah, I know. That makes a lot of sense, actually. So obviously, people, this is you know, addiction treatment kind of thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned anger management.
Yes.
So like I know that sometimes people have court, you know, anger management.
Yes. So we don't do domestic violence here.
Yeah.
That's a whole other probation deal. But what we do teach in our anger management is emotional intelligence, because anger is a universal emotion. Everybody gets angry. Jesus got angry.
Yeah.
Flip the tables over, right? So if we know anger is a universal emotion, then the real culprit is anger's a secondary problem. The real emotion behind anger is stress. So what we teach people is emotional intelligence. And what I mean by that is Aristotle said this: everybody gets angry, but can you be angry at the right person, at the right time, for the right purpose, and for the right way? That's not easy.
Right.
Right? So we try to teach them that if anger is a learned behavior, and there's some attributes that you've used that whenever you get angry, whether it be control, manipulation, hostility, rage, inattention, a lot of folks come in, they're inattentive, that I would have never have acted out like that if I would have seen the collateral damage that happened. So what we teach in our anger management is active listening, right? Listening with your head and your heart. We look at focusing, so when we focus, we're hearing what the other person's saying. Rephrasing, so the sender knows they're heard. Stating your needs. Honest feedback. And it all collaborates with assertiveness, because assertiveness is the ability to have empathy for the other person.
Okay.
Not always agreeing with them, but just having enough empathy to put yourself in their shoes so you can have the right emotional intelligence to respond instead of react.
Okay. Yeah, no, I get that. So, obviously, alcohol and drugs are, major problems. I mean, they're major issues, and this kind of thing is very needed. How do you talk to somebody and demonstrate to them, to get into their head, that they have a problem that they can't control?
It's interesting you say that, and it usually comes, most of our calls come from loved ones. Hey, my loved one's addicted, what do? I go, okay, first, let me help you understand you can't fix them. If they don't want help, you can't make them get help. What I do know is this, is that once you help the unhealthy helper be their best selves and they put up some real good boundaries, like, you know what, I love you, but I'm no longer going to co-sign that behavior. If you call Todd, if you get in treatment, I'd be happy to help you. But as of right now, I'm no longer going to continue to co-sign your behavior. And what happens then is the addict has two choices. They'll either go, you know what, I should probably call and get some information on how I can get rid of my addiction, or they go find another codependent. Right?
Right.
Now, the addict themselves, they run to the end of themselves. I was at the end of myself, and I knew I needed help. And the hardest people to convince they need help are the functioning addicts, alcoholics, because they still go to work. You know, they still hold a job, but in the evening time, they're 3 sheets to the wind before 9 o'clock.
Right. They go to the happy hour, drink themselves to a legal limit, and driving home drunk.
And I've never had a DUI, or some people get a DUI and they get here because of that. They need to be here for that. But all that to say this, that the addict and the alcoholic knows when they need help. And sometimes they'll deny until someone says, you know what, you really ought to call this number because I think they could help you be your best self and get rid of the addiction that's causing you major problems in your life and becoming more important than life itself.
So do you see it being like the people that come in here, would it be kind of equal male and female? Is it dominant men that are drug
Well, it's
users,
equal male and
sorrows?
female. Yeah. Some groups are, have more women than men, but it's a mixed group. Like I say, we have 2 tracks, right? That morning track from 9 to noon and the evening track from 5 to 8. And so help the working class stay working while they can get their treatment. It's totally insurance based. If you have insurance, we can take that. If not, we have a real sliding scale cash model that can help those that don't have insurance. And that's always been my heart, is that helping people that couldn't normally get the treatment they need, I want to help them get there. If you want help, I will help you.
Okay. All right. So that's good. So let's talk about some success stories you've seen through here.
So it's interesting you bring that up. So there's all kinds of anecdotal stories. I had a gal come in just this year, and she found herself through the pandemic isolated, drinking a lot, and she just wasn't her best self. Didn't know what to do. Parents had been really trying to get her the therapy she needed, and that and the other. And she came in, didn't know of God, knew of God, didn't know God, and it was fine with me because we just want to meet people where they're at. She went through our model for 3 months, and at the end of the day, she today is gainfully employed. She's praying. She's going to support meetings. She's connected with her family. And she is her best self.
That's awesome.
Unbelievable life change. That's why I named it Total Life Change, because you need a total life change. Yeah. Another anecdotal story would be a man who came in, great family, drinking too much. He'd been going to CR, using the support groups, wasn't working, drinking a 1/5 a day of whiskey. Referred to me by a pastor. He said, I don't know if I need this or not. He came in. He goes, okay, I'll give it a shot. Started the treatment program, ended up having a relapse, tried to go see if he could do it on his own again. Came back in after the relapse, finished the program. Today, he is one of the best employees in his company. He's back with his wife. He has got like 6 kids. All of them trust him. He's going to their sports events. I mean, this man is totally sold out for first Jesus and the fact that treatment is something he needed in order to get back connected with his God. I mean, I could go down. I probably have 50 I could tell you about, but those are 2 that stand out. I had another one, though. Here, let me tell you this one. Yeah. So I had another one. This young man came in. In fact, the mail lady that comes here, she'd come by and she goes, my son needs your program. I said, well, you know what, give him my number. And lo and behold, he came in. Young man, hooked on cocaine. Finished the program. He finished the program, and he got a job, and he's doing great, right? He was next door at his friend's house, over by his mom's house, and this kid had a ghost gun. But when he was in the program, one night we were here, and he said, Todd, I want to get baptized. I said, well, let's do it. So not only did he go through our program, but I got to baptize him. And he gave his full life to Christ, and his family was there. But he finished the program, and he was gainfully employed, and he was next door at his friend's house by his mom's, and a kid had a ghost gun. And the night before that, he told his mom he was going to go see Jesus. She goes, oh, Jason, you know, I know, we're all going to see him one day. He goes, no, Mom, I think. The next day, his friend had this ghost gun, and they were in this room, kind of like this. And he was just farting around with a red dot. He goes, man, why don't you use it? And they didn't think it was loaded. Shot him and killed him. That day, his mom called me and said, Todd, you won't believe it. I know this, that because he had the total life change, I know where he's at. But there was a vigil at a park that they told us to go to, and all these young kids were there, and they couldn't believe what happened to this young man. It was a total accident. And but the lives he touched, because he was his best self, was a total act of him having a total life change.
Wow.
Today I still see his mother. We had a little memorial service. It's been about 1.5 years since this happened. And we don't know why, you know, something like this happens, but we know this, that only one life to soon will pass, and only what's done for Christ will last. And we know we're going to see him again.
Yeah.
And that's our hope. But if he hadn't had the total life change, there wouldn't have been that hope.
It would have been a much bigger tragedy.
Yes, you know, exactly, Drew. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, that's just one that jumped out at me. And, you know, because who you are, this radical Christianity, that's radical Christianity.
Yeah, that's
radical Christianity.
That's extremely
man.
radical. We're talking about a guy who had a cocaine problem, came into this program.
Yeah.
Not only did his problem and get his life in order, he also got close to Jesus Christ, got himself baptized, got himself on track, and then, you know...
Such unfortunate.
Then went home to Jesus.
Yeah, just incredible. You know, and it's... that's why I love what you're doing, the exposure. Because I know this is that this is out of the birth of just helping people get recovery of sight for the true identity that God has made you to be.
It's awesome, man. Todd, thank you for being a guest on Radical Christianity. Thank you for showing us around Total Life Change. And you know what? If everything that we can do, if you know what, you have a men's retreat coming up.
I do.
You want to just pitch that really quick? We're kind of
Sure.
almost out of time.
Yeah, real quick. So this men's retreat, it's across the board. Men's retreat is not specifically one church. It's up in Santa Cruz Mountains at Mount Hermon. We have 2 keynote speakers. One is Tony Hoffman, from prison to the Olympics. He's a Fresno native. He's going to come Friday night. And they have Brian Simsim, who's an ordained missionary Baptist pastor that started a lot of work with the homeless downtown. He has his master's in social work right now. He's gonna be speaking Saturday and Sunday. But all that to say this: it's 2 nights, 5 meals. $225 gets you the whole package from Friday to Saturday, October 6th, 7th, and 8th. You don't want to miss it. It is going to be one of the life-changing experiences for men. Men have a tough time getting together, but when we get together, God shows up. It's like the oil running down the beard of Aaron. He loves it when men get together to worship him and have life change on the mountain so they can come down and walk out love, safety, and connection.
That is awesome. Thank you for being a guest, man.
You're welcome.
You're definitely rad for Christ, definitely fired up for Jesus, and that's what we love to see on this show.
Thanks, brother.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for Radical Christianity, and it was really great to have you with us for another episode. I would like to invite you to continue to watch and return and enjoy our guests and the things that we're going to be doing. It's really important that I reach out to that person right there who is feeling Jesus tug on their heart. If you're questioning whether or not you should accept Jesus, if you're wondering about Jesus, if that stuff's going on, that's Jesus telling you that he's trying to come and be a part of your life. And that's not something to fear. That's actually one of the biggest blessings that a human being can have. Jesus wants to make you into the person that you were born to be. And that's the straight truth. So if you feel that and you're thinking, hey, you know what? I need to do something about this feeling. I need to act on this, right? So what you got to do is you just got to talk to him. It doesn't have to be complicated and it doesn't have to be crazy. Just talk to Jesus and say, you know, Jesus, I need you. I want you to come into my life and help me to be the person that you designed me to be. And if you said something like that, you know, that's all it takes, you know, because it says in Romans, if you believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord and you proclaim with your mouth, actually, if you believe in your heart that Jesus rose from the dead and he's the Son of God and you proclaim with your mouth that he is Lord, you will be saved, right? So if you said that prayer, you know, if you prayed something like that, if you just told Jesus those things and you're saved, you are part of the kingdom of God. And I want to welcome you. I want to say, hey, welcome to the family, right? And what you can do is you can go to our website, rad4christ.com, and write me on the Got Saved form and tell me that you prayed to have Jesus in your life, you know, while you're watching the show or, you know, because you watched the show. And I will send you a Bible and a little gift and you say, hey, you know what? Welcome to the family of God. We're so glad. You know what I mean? And, you know, we kind of want to just be there for you. We also have an ask a question form and a prayer request form. So if you want to ask us something, you're curious about something, something maybe a guest said, or maybe you have a suggestion for a guest or something like that, please feel free to reach out to us. And if you have a prayer request, definitely reach out to us. If you need us to pray for something that's going on in your life, something that you're hoping for, that you need, that's worrying you, whatever, just write us and tell us so that we can pray for you. And this is the most important thing of all. This is the most important thing. And it is Jesus loves you, and so do I. Thank you for watching Radical Christianity. We will see you next week.
And I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up, no, not me. Even if nobody else believes, I'm not going down that easily. So don't give up on me.
It's a mystery.